You're listening to the Esoterics Podcast. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Esoterics Podcast. I'm Fiorelise, and I'm here with Joe.
Hello, everybody. Today we are going to talk about soul contracts. And the cool thing about that is that I polled the people in the esoterics group, the community, to send us their questions about soul contracts. So at the end of this, we'll be taking and answering some of those questions.
Yeah, that's awesome. But first, I want to know, what have you been up to?
Okay, so here is something really cool that happened. I'm now following a skincare regimen. So I'm at that age where I've been like, I need to actually invest in skincare products.
Yeah.
Right. Something to wash my face with, cleansers and lotions and all that stuff. And I've never done lotions because I thought I had oily skin. So all right. So anyway, so I've been seeing Savannah here in Portland at Raven Healing Aesthetics. Okay. And it's on like 63rd and Sandy. If you're local, you know what that is, where that is. Anyway, so I got a facial with Reiki. And this skincare practice that I've started, that she started me on, it has changed my skin. And I've been doing it for like a week now.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and she said, well, it would take 6 to 8 weeks to see a difference, but no. So, like I said, I always thought that I had oily skin, but she said, no, actually, you have dry skin. And what was happening is that my skin, because it was dry, was creating excess oil.
Oh, I get it. Okay, yes.
Yes, and so I was like, oh my God, really? Like I have to put two types of moisturizer on my face? I was a little bit scared, but I'm telling you what, I mean, I have less whiteheads or little, you get those little skin bumps or whatever. I mean, it's completely changed my skin. It's so amazing. Okay, but I want to tell you about the like the process that I got. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. How many steps is it? What do you do? Yeah.
All right. Well, no, she basically had me laying on a Reiki table, face up, and she gave me a facial. Right. So, as far as how many layers there were to it, I mean, she put like 6 or 7 things on my face.
Okay.
But in between when she was waiting, she freaking gave me Reiki. And I'm telling you, it was something. It wasn't just Reiki. This was energy work. So I guess that her specific skill is reading the grids of people. Like she can read like their auric or energy grids, and she can see stuff in it. Anyway, it was profound. I had crazy like past life flashbacks. I saw her and I in a past life. It was the coolest session I have ever had when it comes to Reiki, because I came out of there with this skin that was just glowing.
Yeah.
Glowing. And it's a good price, right? They're 90-minute sessions, and they start out, in the low 100s, and they go up to the 200s and so on, depending on what you get.
That's cool.
Oh my God. But she does, it's called the Skin and Soul Facial. So if you're in the Portland area, you guys, you have to get that, the Skin and Soul Facial. Then she has this other called the Basic Witch Facial, which I think is really cute. And she does Reiki. She also does intuitive readings. She's a really, she does human design and all that good stuff. So
awesome.
raven-healing.square.site is her website. Check her out.
I need to go back and get facials done. I used to go with this really cool girl named Kat. Actually, hers is Healing with Kat, Katt, and she does Reiki facials like out here she's in Corona, so it's like borderline Riverside. But but I haven't been anywhere in so long, and my skin has been out of control lately.
Yeah.
So, what is your like date? So, what does your routine at home look like now?
It's
How many
so
steps?
easy. She has me cleanse with a gentle cleanser, and there's no scrubber brushes or anything. She's like, nope, your skin is too sensitive.
Mm,
I just use a soft washcloth or the pads of my fingers. This cleanser is quick, and then at night she has me put on a night cream.
mm-hmm.
Um, and then in the morning, I get up and I wash again, cleanse again, and then I do the day cream and I do sunscreen.
Okay. Yes.
And that's it. And it's super, super easy. Now, this is the very beginning of a regimen. She says she has other things that she wants to try on me and wants me to
Mm-hmm.
try, so it's going to evolve. But right now, it's super easy and I can
Yeah.
stick with it. And I love it. I feel like I'm giving myself this awesome ritual.
Yeah, yeah, it's like a little yeah, it's an added ritual that yeah, for self-care. Yeah, I already do a bunch of things, but I honestly like I know what my problem is I need to focus more on the gut health part of it because if you ever done face mapping, like you can do face mapping and look at different why you break out in certain parts of your face and like in the areas that I have been breaking out, it's stomach related, like it's gut related.
Ah,
Yeah.
that's
So,
interesting.
yeah, it's a good place to start by looking cuz certain areas are like sweat or stress, some are like lack of sleep. But yeah, it all has a an origin and there's an explanation to everything.
It's so cool. And like I said, just cleaning but moisturizing my face has reduced the
Mhm.
oiliness, which is completely, it seems like so illogical to me. So my problem is that especially because now I'm in menopause, I
Mm.
get hair on my chin and then the side of my face, right? Well, I have tweezers and then I'll pluck it and it
Uh-huh.
causes all sorts of other things like scarring and stuff. So um, the skincare is separate from the fact that I really need to get laser hair removal. I just need to
Mm.
get it. And it's cheaper than what's the other one called? Not laser
Threading
removal.
or waxing or whatever. What is
No, it was so there's what's the old school way to get hair removed? Was that laser? Old school?
waxed?
But the new
Sugaring?
school, there's a new process. Anyway, so I'm just gonna spend the money and get my hair removed from my face because
Yeah.
I'm not Sasquatch. What the fuck?
Dude, look for Groupons. There's Groupons for laser hair removal. That's how I got started on it. I swear by laser hair removal. I had like, oh, God, how old is my son? He's 11. So like probably like 12 years ago before I was pregnant. I had the underarm laser hair removal, the best investment. It was I think it was $150 for
What?
however many sessions. Yeah, it was dirt cheap, but also the process was like very painful. It was not what it is today.
No, I
It
know.
like now the laser like wand
Mm-hmm.
has like a built-in cooling fan in it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so quick, it's so fast. When I did it that many years ago, they literally had to put ice packs on my armpits first and like freeze the area. Yeah, it was painful. Uh, but still worth it because like I have very thick hair. I have very thick black hair.
Mm-hmm.
So going from that to like shaving like maybe once every couple months, it
Shut
was the
up.
best. It
Shut
was the
up.
best. Yes. And
I would
so
like that. Armpit
I
hair is
swear.
so unnecessary for women. I mean, I get if you want it and you're proud of it and that's great for you, but for
Yes.
those of us that are like, and when you shave it, then it itches in a couple days. It's awful.
Yeah.
Hair removal and pooping. The whole thing is. I'm not a fan of it at all.
No, I understand and I respect because some people have very much like they dive into the idea of like honoring God's design, which I think is cool, and I think it's you got to do what works for you. However, I don't like armpit hair on me because then it like you're instantly more stinky. Like you just smell like that much faster, and I don't have time for that. I know. And yeah, the extra excess hair, like whatever. I don't want to embrace it. Like I want it gone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my personal preference. It's
Mm-hmm.
my body.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I
Don't tell her what to
understand.
do.
I understand honoring God's design, but also God gave me free will. And if he didn't want me to pluck it, then he wouldn't have invented, wouldn't have allowed us to invent all the things to take care of it.
And like I said, I'm not a fucking Sasquatch, okay? I am not, also not, what's the word? It's hirsute or suit, hirsuit, or the people that have all that hair all over their body. The
Mm,
point is that excess hair that creates a maintenance, anything that requires maintenance that's hair, it can
yeah.
get the fuck out, except for the bikini area. I cannot be bald. I've tried it. I did. I'm like, oh, I'm going to see what this whole, getting waxed is
Hmm.
about, being bald. It was awful. I hated it. It felt weird. It
Uh-huh.
looked weird, but it felt weird. It felt, um, I don't know. I just didn't like the feeling of it. And it
Yeah.
didn't, my partner at the time wasn't like, oh my God, this is amazing.
They don't
They,
care.
they
They
don't
don't
care. They
care.
were like, this, it's weird.
They don't give two shits.
No. So I'm like, all right, so bush it is, right? I mean, I can control it, but regardless, it's
Yeah.
bush.
I used to get like Brazilian waxes like on the regular, but then I was constantly dealing with ingrowns
Yes.
all the time, and I was
Yes.
like, not worth it. Totally
Right.
not worth it.
No.
I also had laser hair removal in that area.
Yes.
Also, 100% worth it. Never have to worry about it. I, like
Nice.
I just like the not having to, like, it's not a
It's
concern.
not
Like
a concern. It's
I
not an
just
issue.
don't even
Yep.
think about
No.
it anymore.
No.
That's what I like.
So yeah, laser is in my future. As
Yep.
soon as I can get my skin to a place where it is, where I'm ready for it.
Mhm.
Working with Savannah, and then I'm gonna have laser hair and removal, and I'm just gonna be done with it, and it's gonna be great. So it's
Yep.
nice. Right on.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's what's going on in my world. Skincare. What about with you?
Um, let's see. I have a new moon ceremony planned. That is
Another.
March. Yeah, another. This is another one. Yes. Yeah, I'm actually gonna meet with Anna tomorrow and really lay down because she wants to plan out like I don't know if I think she said the rest of the year, which I'm like, we might have to do like 6 months.
All right, your five is like, oh wait, don't try to
Uh,
lock me down.
no, it's just because things change, and I kind of want to stay in flow of like if an idea pops up, I don't want to be locked into something else.
Right.
Um, so yes, so we're gonna sit down and plan out the next few months, but for now I told her, okay, we're gonna do the 24th of March, so this will be another new moon ceremony. This one's on a Friday.
Nice.
And also we'll be at Raincross District in Riverside.
Yeah.
And yeah, I had just a really good reception from everyone who attended last time. And yeah, and I'm excited to keep that going, but I also want to do some workshops, maybe some intuitive development or energy management type of workshops, which I think are really important for everyone, no matter like
Everyone.
what stage they're at.
Yep.
So yeah, those are my
People
plans.
just need to learn how to use their intuitive abilities,
Hmm.
and that's, I wish that we could arm everyone with knowledge of their intuition and how to use it, because then that's going to help everyone align with
Can you imagine
their
like
purpose. No,
an
I can't. Yes,
intuitive
I can.
an intuitive workshop for like teenage girls?
I mean,
Dude, like that would change our lives. Like
uh,
if we knew to trust our intuition and to trust our gut from that early age, like the things that we would avoid, the
it,
flags that we would see.
so it's funny because there was somebody that I read the other day, and they're like, I just got, she just finished with her Saturn return. There's two people, one person I read about online and the other person that I
Yes.
read. And the person that I read online was like, I have, learned self-awareness and all of these amazing things that I didn't learn until, my mid 40s, or,
Mm.
late 40s. And I'm
Hmm.
like, I can't imagine what my life would have been had I been armed with that knowledge, the knowledge that I have now, in my 20s and my 30s and my
Dude.
40s. I
Yeah.
mean, seriously, just
Yeah.
so I wish that this was something that they taught in school. They taught meditation to children, in
Yeah.
kindergarten, preschool. going inward, listening to your gut, how to tell,
Yeah.
what your gut is, connecting
I
with,
mean,
higher
they
power, all that.
teach. There are schools that teach meditation. Yeah. So at Maharishi University, there's also a children's school there, and everyone from kindergarten and on, they do 20 minutes of meditation twice
I
a day.
love it. It's necessary, and I believe that at some point, we will evolve enough to where we get that where it's standard in school. I mean, right now we need to quit fucking banning books, in erasing history, but we'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I hope so. And then, I, I mean, we don't have to sit around and wait for entire systems to change.
No.
We, especially those of us who are parents, like we can take the steps to educate our own children and to let it start at home. Like we can establish practices that will help our children and then, help that information spread amongst our friends, our family, our community, and so on and so forth. That's how things can get started. We don't have to wait for, whatever, like entire school districts or whoever to tell us what to do and to get this going. Like we can do this at home. We can start at home.
Yep, starting at home. And starting at home starts with woke adults. And right now, woke has been such a word that has been turned into, a joke by, conservatives, or I should say MAGA
Oh,
Republicans.
I
It's
hate how it's so
it's been
bastardized.
weaponized. And for me, it's interesting because that was the name of my studio, was woke.
Mhm.
And I can't
Mhm.
imagine if I still had the studio, what sort of feedback I would have received. But
Mhm.
when I opened the studio, it was a positive word. It was,
Yeah.
it stood for social justice and awareness. And now it's just been turned into this thing that
I mean,
they don't
it
even know what
still
it fucking
means that.
means. It still means
Yeah,
that.
it
They
still
don't fucking know
means
what it
that.
means.
They're just idiots about it, just
Yeah,
ignorant.
yeah, yeah. So do we have, how many spots do we have left, for the retreat?
Oh, for Journey Within, we
Yep.
have one spot
One
open.
spot left as of when this pod drops, which will probably be within the next couple days.
Yes.
I'm responsible for editing and dropping it, folks. So, yeah. All right,
If
one
anything
spot
changes,
left.
if anything changes, we would just edit this out, but if you're hearing this message, there is still one spot open.
There's still one spot open. All right, good. That's fantastic. So, again, this retreat is plant medicine assisted, and it is $888. You can make a deposit and pay, in installments, but you gotta have everything
Yes.
paid for by the end of May.
Yep. Yes.
I officially closed Intuitive Designs. Wah, wah, wah.
Oh.
But it's for a very good reason, because I still have a couple to do to finish and complete.
Hmm.
But then I'm going to move on to lines of jewelry. And I've dropped one, and that went really fast. It sold really well. So, I mean, that's my validation that I'm supposed to do this. And then I'm dropping another one tomorrow, which, by the time this goes out, I will have already have dropped it. But this one is going to be more handmade, silversmithed or smithed metal designs, earrings. I'm also going to start. I've been looking at the trends. I'm not really a trend, jewelry wearer, I guess is what I want to say.
Uh-huh.
I'm more of a classic. I like the classics, but I like, a unique twist on them. But I will tell
Yes.
you, one piece that is coming back, and it's going to make a really big comeback. It already has, are chokers. And I
Oh, I love
fucking love
chokers.
chokers. So
Oh,
I'm going to, put out some really sweet chokers, in the
awesome.
drop coming soon. So, made of leather, like legit
Yes.
leather, with sterling silver wire, that sort of
Oh
thing.
my
So,
gosh, can't wait.
yeah, so it'll be good quality. But I'm also thinking of velvet, maybe some fabric or
Oh,
whatever.
that would be
So,
cool. Yeah, I love chokers
yes,
like that.
I know they're fun, and they're pretty. Lariat necklaces right now. I'm also big into lariats, and lariats are cool
Mm,
because it gives you the choker sort of
option, like yeah,
look,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
but then you have the dangling piece, and then there's lots of other cool things. So, focused on lots of necklaces and earrings right now. Probably not rings, or
Cool.
not rings, because the rings are need to be customized. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The rings are definitely harder to put in a
yeah,
drop.
yeah, unless they're adjustable. So,
Hmm.
yeah, that's what's going on.
Very nice.
Yeah, so let's get at it. All right. Soul contracts. First off, what is a soul contract? Honestly, it's an agreement between souls. That's all it is.
Okay.
So before incarnating into a new body, souls negotiate contracts, and these contracts help us balance karma. They help us achieve our goals, and they help us stay aligned with our life purpose, that sort of thing. Now, we create these contracts with other souls who can best help us align with the growth that we have planned for ourselves. So
Mm.
we make contracts with people strategically.
Yeah.
We decide who will be our teachers and what lessons they will help us learn during our human life. So even people that come to us to learn, those
Hmm.
are our teachers as well.
Yes. Yeah, I can see that. Hmm.
But like you and I always talk about, we have free will. And so, while these soul contracts and the circumstances in our soul blueprint, why they will definitely dictate certain things or experiences, we
Hmm.
always have choices on what we do within those circumstances. And so
Sure.
that's a result also of a soul contract, right? So um, that directly impacts those choices. Our free will directly impacts our life purpose, right? So
Hmm.
here's how it all sort of fits together. Our life purpose is defined by our contracts.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
so our contracts are what allow us to connect with the people that we need in our lives in order to reach our goals. All right. Again, we decide who's going to be our teachers and that sort of thing strategically. Now, when you meet somebody from the same soul group or soul family, or you meet somebody that you have a contract with, you can feel that spiritual connection. You know
Oh,
when you meet
100%.
somebody from your family. Yes.
Yes.
I mean, you and I knew that we were of the same soul family
Yep.
almost immediately. And since I've moved to Portland, I mean, I've met like three or four people that I'm like, oh, there's hello soul family member.
Yeah. I feel like it feels like okay, there's always a sense of familiarity is the first thing. The very first feeling. It's like I know you from somewhere. And
Yes.
then it's happened to me where it's like, well, and then that person's like trying to place me like, have we met here? Did you
How
go to
do I
school? Where did you go
know
to school?
you?
And I'm, no, like that's not maybe in a past life. That's and
Yeah.
I think that's usually the case.
And how we recognize them. For me, it's more like I don't know how I know, but I know that
Mm.
you and I, our friend of the pod, Lizzie. I knew the minute that I talked with Lizzie and we bonded over our disbelief that someone would put their dildos in the dishwasher to wash them. I knew we were of the same soul family. I'm like, what the fuck? Who does that? Right?
Hmm.
That's gross. This is why I don't eat at potlucks. Um, but then there's other people, like my friend Laura here. I was like, oh, we're from the same soul family.
Yeah.
And there is a difference between, you know, soul family, soul group, and I'll get to that in a minute. But we're gonna briefly touch on it. But we
Yes.
have another episode which I list here later in this, um, eh, to go take a deep dive into that. So.
Right. Hmm.
Okay, so here's the question that people ask: Who agreed to this? Who signed up for this bullshit? Right? So who was it that agreed to this life contract?
You
The
did.
you who is here on Earth is not the one who agreed to it.
Mm.
You are, however, the one that lives it. So
Mm.
you signed up for it. However, it was your higher self that signed up for it, right? Your
Yeah.
higher self agreed to your current life and contracts on behalf of you, the human. Um, so why? Because the consciousness of your higher self is fundamentally different from our current human consciousness. Our personality is the same, typically,
Hmm.
but our consciousness is completely different. So the higher self will make decisions for us in our quote higher good that our human consciousness thinks is fucking insane.
Right. Yeah.
Why? And the answer is that the higher self is merely following our soul blueprint, right? Because the higher self writes the soul blueprint for us, and
Hmm.
then it
Hmm.
follows the soul blueprint, which is dictated by universal law. Universal law. Now, you can find out more about the 12 spiritual laws. Fearless and I did an episode on it, episode 59 of the
Okay.
pod, if you want to know what those laws are. But they're really interesting, and once you learn how to live from them, it kind of does make life a little bit easier.
Hmm.
I
Yes,
don't always remember to.
because you're not going against the grain.
Right, exactly, exactly. So anyway, universal law, like the law of attraction, is one of the most well-known universal laws. It governs
Yes.
contracts. It actually governs the contracts. Why is universal law in place? To govern the freaking contracts in this whole
Sure.
business.
Okay.
But everybody has to follow them. And honestly, um, they just support one goal, which is learning unconditional love and co-creation as a conscious human.
Yeah.
I mean, in all of my studies of woo-ness and stuff, it's like, well, why are we here? Why do we have to learn this? What does it all boil down to? I don't know. I have no idea yet. Maybe someday I
Experience.
will. Experience, a
That's all.
consciousness,
You're just most of the time you're just here to experience
experience. Right,
the thing,
right,
whatever it is.
right.
It's not that complicated.
Mm-mm.
Like we make it more complicated
Yeah.
because like I don't know, our brains are wired to do that, I guess. But yeah, I always have that thought because once I get to that place with mushrooms, like where mushrooms pulls me out of the human programming,
Yes.
and I'm like, wait a minute, what are we doing?
So why? What do we do? Well, that's the next
Why?
level, the next step. And, I mean, I guess maybe as conscious humans, we don't get to know. Maybe that's when we get to know when we're on our planet of origin or we're in spirit or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Who knows? All right. So, um, again, back to the why. This path that we take to learning is supported by karmic law, experiences, all that stuff. So basically, loosely translated, we will continue to experience the same situations, people, and lessons over and over again as a way to balance any karmic debt until we learn to value and love life unconditionally, which I think is really apparent now. Like people are not loving and valuing each other with their liberties and civil liberties and all that stuff unconditionally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lots of power plays are coming out and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And but that's the point of the contract. Tangent. Did you see the reporting that Rupert Murdoch was like, "Oh yeah, Fox News lied. We lied. Of course, I could have stopped it, but
Yep.
I didn't." I was
Yep.
like,
Yeah,
"How?"
because they're there to profit. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because they were losing viewers.
You tell a my Republican, and they don't care. They're like,
No,
"Well, there's got to be a good reason for it, right?"
no,
All right.
or yeah, or no, it's the whataboutism.
What? Yeah. But
All of
what
them
about
lie.
pizza?
All of
What
them
about
lie.
Pizzagate?
CNN lies too, and whoever else. Well, yes, there's human bias because it's run by humans. It's always going to be biased in one direction or another. But there's a difference between having a bias and then blatantly lying.
And that's exactly what happened. And old Rupee, he's admitting it too. So it's like, all right, well, but then at that point, you're like, well, what do you?
I'm so glad they're getting sued because that's exactly what. Because all it boils down to capitalism, right? They
Yeah.
were lying so that they could increase their profits or that so that they wouldn't lose revenue. So now they're being sued. So it's gonna come back and bite them in the ass.
Dominion's gonna fucking clean them out.
I hope
Clean them
so.
out. I mean, I'm
I
just
hope
gonna
so.
laugh and be like, but also the current astrology
Mm-hmm.
supports this. It really
Yes.
does. The current astrology supports sort of the breaking open of lies and all that stuff right now. So
Right.
I'm here for it, right? I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Trying to stay off of all of the new shows except for Rachel Maddow and Lawrence O'Donnell because Lawrence O'Donnell is a catty bitch. He cracks me up. I'm like, he's petty and catty, and I love him.
Yeah. I honestly, I do my like 20-minute podcast show that I listen to, my news show, and
And that's
that's
it.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's I listen to What a Day, and sometimes it's even that like 20 minutes is heavy enough where I'm like, okay, I'm informed, but I'm good.
But
Like
I'm
I'm
good.
good for now. I
Exactly.
mean, that's
Yeah,
enough.
especially for empaths, it's really hard. It's really hard.
Yeah.
Don't make that be a part of your absorption, your consumption, because it really does. It makes you go
Yeah. Yeah.
spiral. All right, so listen, back to contracts. So
Uh-huh.
here's the thing. If you want to explore your life path, which is the whole point of finding out what is in your contract, right?
Mm-hmm.
I recommend, obviously, booking an Akashic reading with me, and then we'll take a closer look at what your soul contract or your soul blueprint looks like for you. If you want to
Yes.
deep dive, I mean, numerology, astrology, and human design, book a tetralogy reading. But if you just want to dip your toe and find out, what it is, what your life purpose and path and all of that stuff is,
Yeah.
then book a soul blueprint reading. And then there's
Yep.
others. There's an Akashic tarot reading, which there's all sorts of price points there.
Yes, and that's the one that I booked with you, and that's what the guidance that I was looking for,
Yeah.
because I just wanted to know, like, what am I doing? Like, 'cause I've been told, at the time I was like, I've been told I'm some kind of healer, but I don't know what that looks like,
Yeah.
and I don't know where am I supposed to go? So yes, that was a really great starting point.
It's so fun, and it just gives people this this validation. A lot of
Mhm.
times people will book with a psychic and they're like, I want answers, I want details, I want things I
Mhm.
don't know. And we can tell people things that they don't know, right? That's the
Sure.
whole fun of being a psychic. But 90% of the time we're simply validating what the person already knows,
Right. Right.
within their
Mhm.
own intuition.
Yeah.
Okay, so contracts, they impact us in different ways. So we're gonna go over things like contracts with others in our soul family and all that stuff. But first, I want to talk about how they impact our physical body and our
Mhm.
mental body and all that stuff. So we'll start with the physical body and soul contracts. All right. So in the life between life state, prior to incarnation, when we choose our parents, we choose our bodies for our next life on earth. The choice always involves genetics when it comes to our physical body. Okay. So the genetics that determine our physical body, it's a choice that's made consciously by the higher self.
Uh,
That ensures that the intended experiences that are written in our soul blueprint, it ensures that we experience that and we experience the lessons as a result of the physical body. Okay. Now,
okay.
for example, if someone is born with birth defects, learning abilities, etc., the physical body generally determines what they can and cannot do, right, at any given time. And
Uh-huh.
that's going to directly impact our experience as a human on Earth. Like if you're
Uh,
born blind, that's going to impact your.
sure. Yeah. Yeah. And Dolores Cannon talked a lot about this too. When people ask that question, like,
Yeah.
why are some people born, a certain way? And even like, there was the channelings of the I think it's the Quo. I don't know if they're called the people of Quo, but it's a anyway, it's an energy, and their name is Quo. And they asked them, like, why are people born with autism? And the answer was not that complicated. Like, they're just here to experience life from a different perspective.
Yep, that's what it is. Karma balancing of it and creating it is all experiential. It's
Hmm.
Um, so that's how the physical body plays into our soul contracts. And
Sure.
we're not talking contracts yet. I'll get to that. But right
Hmm.
now, physically, we
Yeah.
have to create certain soul contracts as a result of our physical body.
Yeah.
We also have to create certain soul contracts as a result of our emotions. So the word emotion is cool. I never knew this before. It means energy in motion, which makes sense.
That makes
And
sense. Yeah.
energy has to be resolved, experienced, as a person's life path, purpose day unfolds.
Uh-huh.
So emotion, when it's linked to our physical conditions
Uh-huh.
and then our mental conditioning, which I'll talk about in a minute,
Uh-huh.
is an especially powerful force in the balance of karma. Our emotions basically are our indicator that shit's not right within our
And
life.
that makes sense too, about like when you the whole idea of having emotions stuck in your body
Yep, yep.
because you didn't properly expel or
That
expend
energy.
the energy
Yep.
out. It gets to get you, yeah, you get stuck. And that's why it's so important to have
Yes.
some kind of physical routine in some way that helps you release that, whatever that looks like for you. But
Yes.
something, even if it's a massage.
Excellent perspective and excellent point to make to connect the two. I mean, that's why energy in motion, it has to be in motion or else it gets
Mm,
stuck.
yeah.
Okay, and then the contracts are impacted by our mental outcomes, what we want to experience mentally.
Hmm.
I think it's less about what we want to experience mentally and more about what we want to accomplish, overcome mentally.
Okay. Okay.
So the mind, it's a whole other story, a whole other story. So when people choose their next life, that choice always involves mental preconditioning and internal triggers that are going to be activated when we encounter, the experiences written in our soul blueprint.
Mm,
Because these triggers will determine our behavior, they'll determine our experiences, they'll determine all sorts of things. So that behavior either keeps us in the same cycles that need to be continued to learn,
Mhm.
or it provides an opportunity, those of us, and I'm not saying that I am, but I'm saying that if you are self-aware, it provides
Mhm.
us an opportunity to take the necessary, steps or actions to resolve and heal your triggers. And the thing is those triggers can come from either a past life, which a lot of them do, or
Yeah.
from a current life, but they're typically past life triggers that are being reactivated in this lifetime in order to be
Mm.
healed.
Yeah, I resonate that with that big time. When I was little, I used to have like a really strong fear of abandonment,
Yeah.
like really bad. And I don't, I mean, yeah, like my mom lost me in a couple of stores and stuff.
Right.
But I don't think it was that bad, you know?
Whenever you tell me stories about your mom, I crack up because she's like, well, I mean,
Yeah, but I don't think that that's what like where that came from because it felt like an unfathomable trauma of like abandonment.
right
And
in
yeah,
the middle.
but I don't think that it came from that because like even if I was lost, like it was never like I was never lost for like hours or anything
No.
like that. It was like literally maybe 5 minutes
Yeah.
that I couldn't find her. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, and it took a long time. It wasn't until I wasn't a teenager anymore. I like worked through that with like my first relationship, like my first boyfriend. Like I had like this like stupid like intense like attachment, you know, that was created in that relationship. And then at some point it was just like done. Like cuz I
Yeah.
had like this huge fear of being alone for a long time.
Yeah.
And then it was interesting how once I got to the point where I was like, "Oh, this relationship is done. Like this
Yeah.
relationship is over. Like I am so over this right now." I released that also that attachment fear, that fear of abandonment along with that relationship.
So that was probably the past life relationship that took
Yeah.
place where you were abandoned, and then now that you got to re-experience it,
Mhm.
that connection from a place of empowerment, then you no longer need that lesson. And so that's how easily past life therapies, regressions, just in simple awareness can, issues can be instantly resolved like that.
Yeah.
Not all the time. It doesn't happen
Yeah.
all the time, but it does happen.
Yeah. Well, like my mom has her fear of heights like bad.
Yeah.
Her boyfriend took her to the Grand Canyon. I was like, "Why did you do
Oh
that?"
my god.
And she was like terrified. But yeah, and like something having to do in a past like that's how she died.
Yeah.
But there's no like overcoming that for her like just by the awareness like she knows that she
She
passed like that
knows.
way and she just carries it like she just
I
does
can't
not want
believe
to deal
that
with
she would buy the house that she has now, because when I went up those stairs and I looked over the banister, I was like, oh my God, like I was scared. I can't
yeah.
imagine why she'd be like,
No,
I'm going to buy this house.
she's never thought about I don't think she ever thought about that part. No, I think
That's scary. So I have, as a child, well, as a child, but also
hmm
now, but I have had an unexplainable disdain for the Catholic Church. I know I've talked about this before. Pretty
hmm
much any organized religion since I was a small child. There's no reason or basis for it, and I wasn't raised going to church, and I never had any interest in it, but it wasn't until I began to explore my past lives that I realized how many lives I've had as a nun or
yeah.
some other form of religious connection that involved like corruption, persecution, betrayal, and then of course the
Yeah.
big one, murder.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's my distrust and disdain for organized religion. I just don't
Yeah.
like it, and it's
Yeah.
it's not based in anything in this life. It's all past life.
I had a nun past life too.
Yeah, we all have. It's the coolest thing, and I think that a lot of us that are women that are within the same soul group, I think also too, we recognize each other as those nuns. I mean, back
Yeah.
then there were nuns. Nuns and monasteries were everywhere.
Right. There was only so many careers you could have other than being a housewife, right?
Right, right. So all right. So there's that's the mind and how the mind works within
Okay.
determining and deciding on soul contracts, and then
hmm
there's universal intervention. Okay, so due to our free will, some of us will still manage to beat the system, right?
hmm
We will impose our will because we have the ability to do that,
Sure.
upon the universe. And so, since we're here to sort of learn to become the creators of our lives, We are expected to manifest, our desires and transcend our circumstances. That's the whole
Mhm.
point of incarnation, right? But the universe is like, okay, I see you, right? You're working your way. Yes, you have free will, but I tell you what,
Mhm.
if this is inconsistent with your karma and your life path, I'll step in and I'm going to bring balance and transformation to your life, which the Tower card, right? The universe will step in
Mm.
and fuck shit up. So, soul contracts are not set in stone.
Yes. Mhm.
um, you know, People that have, actually done the work, they have balanced their actions, their experiences. They can change their life contract. And I know that this was one of the questions. And they can change their life contract. Now, listen, here's the thing, changes are rare.
Mhm.
The reason that they're rare is because the higher self typically says, okay, like I set this course for a reason,
Yes.
for your spiritual growth and everything. But so they can happen, but they are very rare.
Yeah. You can also delay the experience or whatever the karma, not for like the next life necessarily, but you can delay it for some time. And we see this all the time, right? We see people who like convince themselves like, no, I'm straight. I'm straight. And then they just kind of keep lying to themselves, you know, and or there it happens a lot like men who are straight up married to women, but they leave double lives as a gay man. And all they're doing is they're lying to themselves by not living their full authentic selves until one day they're like, you know what, I can no longer, live this lie. I'm hurting people, et cetera, et cetera. And then they just embrace who they actually are.
Mhm. And they're like, I'm gonna be free, free to be
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Right? The women are like, I never knew, but
Yeah. It's
but
like,
yeah, you did. But
no,
you did.
you did.
Your
There
soul
were
knew.
straight men don't dance like that.
Right, or dress like that. Oh my god. I love me some gay men. Okay, so now we're into the part that talks about contracts with others in our soul family. Soul contracts, right? So, first off, briefly, a soul family are members who you have consistently incarnated with over time. They don't have to be related to you, but they're a large part of your life. Through is a member of my soul family. Okay.
Yep.
And again, when you recognize them, you just know your soul
Yeah.
knows, your heart knows. Soulmates, we can have several soulmates during different parts of our journey.
Yeah.
You don't only make contracts with soulmates, you make contracts with anybody you have a relationship with.
Hmm.
But soulmates, they all have sort of the same purpose. Soulmates are from the same soul group, definitely
Yeah.
the same soul family, but the same soul group. They all work together, and they are people or souls who fulfill very specific needs within our soul blueprint or life path, like friends, significant
Yes.
others, bosses, nemesis.
Hmm.
As a result, we make soul contracts with those that we love, as well as someone who isn't a soulmate. Okay.
Okay.
As well as someone who isn't a partner or whatever.
Yeah.
Soulmates can also be known loosely as soul family members,
Uh-huh.
twin flames, kindred spirits, whatever.
Yes.
And then each of these has their own specific meaning. Um,
Yes.
if you want to go deeper into the topic, episode 9, Vera Lee's and I did in our
Yep.
first season, soul groups, soul families, and soulmates, and we'll get a little bit deeper into them.
Yep. And then we did a whole episode on just twin flames.
Just twin flames. Oh, okay. And so here's what's cool. So yesterday I had a client, and my policy on twin flames. I don't romanticize it.
No.
This girl had a legit twin flame, and oh
Hmm.
my god, that energy surrounding it was so strong. So I will say that I've had maybe 5 or 6 clients throughout all of the years that I've been doing readings that
Uh-huh.
have a legit twin flame, and the energy is just completely different. I wouldn't wish a twin flame on anybody. They're awful, and you and I both have them, so we know.
I just feel like they're meant to kind of check you in a way of like, hey, are you doing your work?
Yeah,
No?
yeah,
Then
right.
here's your tower card.
Exactly.
Bye.
Exactly. Exactly. They're not necessarily a part of our lives like mine. Um,
Mhm.
I'm like, look at now and I'm like, oh God, I can't imagine. I have no desire. There's no desire there to have any sort of relationship with that person other than, I love them. They're funny. They make me laugh and they're fun to be around.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So relationships as a result of soul contracts. Okay, so your soul contract is going to affect all of these things, including your life, but the primary thing is the relationship. All right, so relationships are an opportunity to put into practice all of the lessons that we have learned. That's what
Mhm.
relationships are. So I know people call them our mirrors. And then the beautiful saying, in relationships we are wounded, and in relationships we are also healed.
Yes. Yes.
Those that we have a soul contract with are meant to be our mirror, which means we will come face to face with our wounding, our triggers, but also our triumphs. Um, and these relationships will support our work around healing them or growing them or strengthening them.
Okay. Okay.
Relationships also help us learn compassion for our own wounding as well as having compassion for other people.
Mhm.
So basically, if the behaviors of somebody else, if they've affected your relationship with them, it's important to understand that they too are learning about love through their own experiences. They're just not doing it very well. And so, sort of understanding what has brought them to this point in their life, it helps us move forward without, I won't say anger, but, maybe a little bit more compassionately.
Yeah.
And can also show us how everybody learns differently,
Yeah.
but honestly, some people just need to be faced with their demons in order to learn and grow. It's true. Some people just need to hit rock bottom.
Yeah. Some people need to be called out on their shit in
Yeah.
order to like actually, acknowledge it. Or other some people like narcissists they need to be stopped. Like no, like you put a wall up and say not today, not with me,
Not tonight,
and
mother trucker.
move on. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Some people just need to get hit in the face with, with their bullshit in order to be like, oh, this isn't really helping me or serving me.
Mhm.
Okay, so here's how the soul contracts help in other ways. They raise your consciousness by helping you understand that you are responsible for your own happiness. That's what a soul contract is going to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
That you're responsible for the choices that you make in life, and that affects how happy or unhappy you are. Now, I'm not
Yes.
saying that there aren't socioeconomic circumstances, geographic circumstances, there's,
Yeah.
all of these things, but I am saying that you are responsible for your own happiness. End of story. Soul contracts also help you listen to your intuition, and then they allow you to make those decisions that are more aligned with your life purpose.
Mhm.
And we'll talk about how and why all that happens. And then they also sync with guidance from the universe,
Uh-huh.
by connecting you to the people and situations who can help you on your life path. Soul
Okay.
contracts.
Yep.
So let's talk about past life connections and soul contracts.
Ooh.
Um, and that's just somebody that you have, obviously a connection with from a past life. Why are they important? Why are we talking about them? Because they explain the dynamics or unfinished business of relationships.
Yes. Okay.
And so there are a few ways to tell if you have a past life connection with somebody, which I always think is really cool. So the first
Mhm.
way is that if you feel a sense of familiarity with a person, you may feel like you've known them before, even if you just met them. If and I were just
Mhm.
talking about this. Another way is to tell is through dreams. You may find yourself dreaming about that person or a past life that you shared with them. I don't, my dreams are fucking Salvador Dali pictures, but you actually have really
Yes, I
positive.
do. Yeah, I have very vivid and just like conscious dreams. I don't know. Like
Yes.
I retain a lot. Yeah. And yes, I would agree with this. Yes, absolutely. Because anytime that somebody like that will come into my life, I'll have a dream about them, or something like that happens. Even I think I've told you, like when I one time I booked a reading with Sam, and literally like the night before my reading, I had a dream that she was like reading.
Yes.
And I messaged her and I was like, you work double, right? Like you work in the astral realm and you're also here in the physical. You need to charge more.
Maybe she was, that was her consult. The souls got together and you're like, all right, what are we going to talk about tomorrow? What do you need to know? What don't you need to know?
Yeah. It
Um,
was crazy.
Well, and then you did that before too. You told us a story where you were reading people in your dreams, and then the next day, like you met them and you're like, what? Like,
Yeah,
uh,
it happens. It's insane how it works.
you can also tell somebody or tell if you have had a past life connection with someone or you have a contract with them through, just intuition, gut feelings,
Yeah.
energy, all that stuff. So, it's all intuitive, feeling familiar, dreaming, all that good stuff. But
Mm.
there are some really fun, obvious signs. Okay. And so those are trust. Like if you feel that you can trust somebody, you'll likely have a past life connection with them. The trust will be strong and it'll be hard to ignore. And if you're
Mm.
not a very trusting person, it'll be even more so. Like you just feel. You might not trust your trust, but you're going to feel it. Basically, if you feel like you need to confide in them or you can confide in them,
Mm.
that's important. Again, with familiarity, you might feel like you know them even though you've never met them. And this is a really strong feeling and can be one of the first signs. If there's somebody that you meet that you just get along really well with, and you're like, wait, where are the walls? Where are, you know, for whatever reason, it feels oddly um, surprising that you get along that well.
Yes. Hmm.
I feel like that's likely that you have a past life connection with them. It's soulmates. Either way, the connection will be strong and you're able to communicate easily. That's sort of the sign. Easy
Yeah.
communication.
Okay.
Synchronicities, you might keep meeting someone in random places or have the same experiences. You always run into each other, or just always on the same wavelength. There's some
Ah.
sort of connection there.
Okay.
Teacher student, that's a really big one. I feel I get that a lot with people in readings and stuff.
Hmm.
When I read them and I open up their record, it'll come through, oh, you're meant to teach them. I'm only in
Oh.
their life for a minute, one
Yeah.
reading. I probably won't read them again. But they're like, I'm that person who sets them on their path and pivots them in a new direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then also students, when we go to somebody and we want to be students, that's a soulmate connection.
Okay.
Positive emotions, they're hard to ignore. You might feel happiness or joy or love when you're around them and you don't know why.
Yeah.
Past life. The other one is these are more of challenging. You might feel a fierce rivalry.
Oh.
Yep. It
Oh,
might.
these are interesting to get into.
Yes.
Okay.
If you have a feeling of intense rivalry with someone, you're likely rivals in a past life. This might manifest as competitiveness in this
That's
lifetime,
interesting.
or you might find that you're always trying to one up another,
Huh.
or the other person is always trying to one up you, or there's somebody that I have in my life where I'm like, I don't really. I don't want to talk about it because, but I have one of those, and I know that we have several past lives together, and I'm like, I'm just like, just putting a pin in that one for this lifetime.
Yeah.
Um, the best way to deal with this, or if you can't seem to get along with somebody, right? And the best way to
Oh, yeah.
deal with this is to try to understand where the rivalry is coming from, and find the root of the problem, and then try to work on releasing it.
Okay.
So intense feelings are another one. Intense feelings for somebody. These feelings might be positive, but they also might be negative. Like my intense hatred of the Catholic Church, right? Now there's something there. Regardless, your feelings will be intense. Um, they're just very hard to ignore. So that's something to pay attention to. Like, who is this person to me? Why are my feelings so intense? And then the last one is unfinished business. If you feel you might have unfinished business with someone, then you likely have a past life connection with them.
Oh, I hate that feeling.
Yes, right?
Oh,
It feels like you need to resolve something, but you're not sure what.
I hate it. Yeah.
Mostly it's we need to let go of something. It's
I've
like,
I've I've had it come up like several times in my life. I'm just like, why?
mhm.
Why can't we just be done?
If it feels like you need to complete something, you will likely have a past life connection with a person or situation. So it's
Mm.
not just Libras. Libras just are one of the sides that hold grudge. But I do believe Capricorn is too. So Capricorns, Libras, and any others. I think I'm not sure what other Taurus. Oh, a Taurus will hold a grudge forever. You'll die. You'll die. A Taurus will be like die first before I forgive you. All those signs. Yeah, it's probably unfinished business.
Mm.
All right. So that's sort of the anatomy of a soul contract, why they exist, how they help us, where they influence, that sort of thing. Um, Ending a soul contract. Let's talk about what to do when the lessons have been learned, when everything in the contract has been accomplished, and there's nothing left to do. Basically, what do you do when you realize that the other person has not fulfilled their end of the contract? You might wonder, well, what's left to be learned by staying in this relationship or continuing to engage this connection?
Uh-huh.
Nothing, nothing. There is nothing left to further to learn. Your soul knows, so listen to your gut. If your soul says, extricate yourself from this connection, from this relationship,
Yeah.
you'll also feel sort of ambivalence
Yeah.
about it, or a rush of freedom. You'll feel like just, anxiety, but also like the anxiety's gone when you think about
Yes.
getting rid of them.
Yeah.
This is when you know it's time, because contact with this person is exhausting,
Yeah.
and it causes you to feel bad about yourself, blame yourself, feel guilty. um, you know get rid of it. When you're truly ready to end a soul contract, the easiest way is through taking physical action that focuses your energy and attention. All right. So it's super, super, super simple practice. Okay. Now listen. Of course, if you're sharing parental responsibilities, co parenting, that sort of thing, you have to have connection with this person. It can be a lot difficult. But for the average non connected relationship that has run its fucking course, the following steps can help you.
Okay.
So first you're going to take physical action, right? That means no further personal and emotional connection or contact. Again, if it's possible. If it's not possible, like if it's an ex-spouse, you share custody with or something, keep your interactions purely transactional.
Yeah.
Nothing more. Purely
Yep.
transactional. Polite, but transactional.
Yeah.
Then you're going to take action on that practice. You've set your you've taken action, but you're also going to set an intention around that action,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the practice of release. So just on a piece of paper, you just write like, I, Joanna Figueres, ended the soul contract between myself and the Catholic Church, as of whatever date, and then add
Uh-huh.
anything you wish to say about the situation. I think the Catholic Church sucks. Um, it doesn't have to be anything profound, as I've just illustrated. Because anything left unsaid or undone can be written, here, which is going to sort of complete the contract and the relationship. Okay. And then just sign your name to the bottom of the page. If your relationship needs closure and finality, rip that contract into small pieces and then burn it. Burn it to the ground.
Yes.
Of course, this is all purely, like ceremonial, but it does sort of focus your intention in a really powerful way, because once that contract has been ended, you might feel lighter, and then areas of your life that have felt stuck can begin to move forward. So I get this question a lot in the Akashic Records, and people will ask me, well, I do I have to stay with this person, or how do I know that they haven't met their end of the deal, the end of the bargain? So, for instance, two people will come together. One was abusive in a past lifetime, and in this lifetime, they're meant to balance it by being a supportive spouse. They have all of the numerology that supports being, loving and caring and nurturing. They have all of
Mm-hmm.
the astrology that supports that as well. But they get into life and they just don't handle it well, and they've chosen their parents who are going to support the having to heal from being a narcissistic abuser, and they
Mm.
don't, right? So they enter into a relationship with this person, and then they abuse that person again.
Okay. Yeah.
Again, for how many times? So they have not kept their end of the deal, their end of the contract.
Yeah.
There is no reason why you cannot leave that relationship and sever that soul contract because of free will, and basically because they have not kept their end of the bargain.
Yeah.
Contracts are created by two people to help us grow, evolve, all that stuff. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it involves negative behaviors, but that's only to get you to a point where you step away and you say, no more, I'm done, I will not accept this. And
Yeah.
then you begin the healing process.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
even soul contracts that you end are still, they were there in the first place for a reason.
Yeah. And some people have a really hard time with that though. Like they don't like to hear that
They don't like
because
to leave.
yeah.
Safety,
Well, some
fear.
people don't want to hear that explanation because they think it's spiritual bypassing.
Oh, that's interesting. Explain what you mean. Tell me how you mean that.
Yeah, because I was in this witchcraft group and somebody was asking about this and I said it and someone was like, that's spiritual bypassing. They were all mad about it. I was like, well, first of all, you're in a witchcraft group. Like I thought you wanted a deeper meaning to it, not like go get a restraining order. I could have told you that on your Facebook post. Anyway,
I don't see how it's spiritual bypassing.
she was saying that like that it's excusing the abuser by giving the explanation of, it's a soul contract. And it's like, well, it's not excusing the bad behavior. It's just giving you the reason, like, or I guess a reason, but that's not an excuse. And that's not saying that they're not a perpetrator and that they're not in the wrong. It doesn't say any of that. But yeah,
It's
that's
only
why.
spiritual bypassing if you don't do something. And spirit in the soul contract is never it's never built upon the premise of here's this contract and here's this behavior and you just have to take it and you have to sit in
No,
it. That's
no.
personal choice. That's free will. Free will of walking away is the same free will of staying.
Yeah.
Right? So
Right.
it's only spiritual bypassing if you use it and stay and use it as an excuse, right? But if you say, all right, I know that this is our soul contract, but I'm the fuck out of here,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that's not spiritual bypassing. I think that they were
Do something
probably,
about it.
they weren't looking at the entire picture. Those,
That group
witch of
that
group
group
witches.
was that group was problematic and everyone always had like you could not leave any comment because someone always got offended
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
time.
Mm-hmm. All right. So just to wrap this up before we get to some of the Q&A or the questions, soul contracts, they help us achieve the goals our higher self has for us on earth, and they help us align with our life purpose, right? Now, again, we created these contracts with those who can best help us align with the growth that we have planned for ourselves. But understand that growth does not always come in the form of joy. Sometimes it comes in the form of conflict, stress, tragedy, all that shit, right? It's
Mm.
still growth. So, when our highest form of consciousness, when we are in our highest form of consciousness, our higher self, we are exuding unconditional love. And in that state, that's when we decide who will be our teachers and what lessons they will help us learn during our human life. So,
Mm-hmm.
we're not saying, hey, Stan, I want you to be my abusive husband, but I know that you're going to do that in the highest form of love. Or that's what we are saying. And Stan isn't like, I'm gonna be such a dick. Stan is like, okay, I'm gonna do my best to overcome the challenges of my own soul blueprint, my own conditioning, programming, all that stuff, parental influences, blah blah blah, in order to heal that so that I can then, help you heal yours or whatever.
Yeah.
That's sort of how that shit works.
Okay.
So it's kind of like it's the universal catch-22. The most beneficial and healing soul contracts and relationships can often be the most painful.
Mm.
My final example, I guess, about that is that I have found that even when I have strong negative feelings about someone, not every time, but more the older I get, right? I find that the more that when I have strong negative feelings about someone because of what they brought into my life experience or who they were or that sort of thing, at the end of the day, I can generally be grateful for their presence in my life because of the self-awareness and growth that came along with their nonsense and fuckery, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for that, I can offer gratitude and appreciation. I'm not excusing their behavior or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess my final example would be this ex who broke my heart into pieces. He broke my heart, that bitch. And for a long time, I was super, super angry. I was sad. And for way too long, I would have taken his dusty asshole back for much longer than necessary. But, as soon as I begin to do the work and I begin to heal the emotions that he brought into my life and integrate the lessons and, resolve the feelings of anger and replace them with gratitude that he wasn't a part of my future. It really did evolve into like, I'm so glad I, all of that. It's that well, um, yeah, I was able to have gratitude over some things. But you know, here's the thing too. I'm also at a place now where I look back and then I, occasionally see pictures or whatever on Facebook, and I'm just really grateful, um, or hopeful. I have a lot of compassion for him. I hope he got his shit together because he wasn't a bad guy.
Mhm.
Um, and it's my understanding that he left behind a trail of broken hearts. So it wasn't just my heart that he broke.
Mhm.
And I don't even know why. Honestly, he wasn't even really that cool. He wasn't even fucking cool, fucker. Okay, maybe I haven't completely moved past the anger. Whatever. It's that whole bullet dodged. What the fuck was I thinking? Kind of situation
Exactly.
with
Yeah.
this. So
I think if you 100% though let go of all the negative emotion, then there might be a little bit of a tendency of like, oh well, we can give it another shot.
oh God,
So I think that holding on
never.
to at least like just like a little
Just a
bit,
little bit.
right, is like healthy. Like just like a little bit of like, ew, no,
Yes.
I'm good.
Right. Yes. Oh my
I
God. I
wish you well, but also
don't.
no, thank you.
What do we see in people sometimes? It's like, oh my God, what did I
Yeah,
see?
but I've also felt that when you were talking about like when you know that it's done. Like
It's done.
I have felt that it's intense because
Hmm.
like I had this person where I was like, I was a teenager and you're a teenager and you feel things so intensely. But once it was done, it was like, oh, I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm good.
I got that.
I don't wish you ill.
No.
Like, but I also like I'm good if I never speak to you again, if I never see you again, I am great. Like, and that's how I knew that it was like a soul contract, but also that it was done.
Yes, my heart is good. Now fuck off and go away and don't come back.
Yeah.
All right, so now let's look at some of the questions. Some of these I might say we've already answered, and I'll really quickly.
Yeah.
So, first question is there always a soul contract between people in intimate relationships, such as marriage, lover, mother, son, mother, daughter, etc.? Any primary relationship, there is a soul contract. I even think there's soul contracts between those that just are acquaintances. But yes, there's always a soul contract between people in relationship, regardless of
Hmm.
what type.
Hmm.
Next question. What happens if you fulfill your end of the soul contract and the other person doesn't? We just talked about that. Leave them.
Yep.
You can end it. Get rid of it. That sort of thing.
I'm done.
I'm done. Be like, yep. If you break a soul contract, will that person feel pulled to come back to you so you can continue the contract? And is this why we feel pulled to be with certain people? And she says, or they say, I don't know. For instance, I've been in relationships that turned out to not be the best for me, but every time I felt an immense pull to be with this person and at least try it out. Um, let's see. So basically, the question is, if you break a soul contract, will that person? Um, I don't. Probably yes. But again,
Hmm.
when you're in that higher self consciousness, you're all about unconditional love. So that person would come back to you and say, I know I messed up last time, but I'd really like to try it again. Are you down for that? And again, remember, we don't have the same consciousness when we're in our higher self, but we have the same personality. So your personality could be like, dude, no. I mean, find somebody
Yeah.
else because,
Yeah.
especially if you don't have any karma to balance, and you can help them out and say, well, I'll help you out. But if you
Hmm.
don't have karma to balance, why would you? Why?
Yeah.
It'd be like getting a cavity filled that you don't have.
Yeah. No, I think so. I think to answer their question, I think yes. I think that when if you don't complete the soul contract, I think that that's why sometimes you can feel that pull or that other person will feel the pull and they'll continue like, to keep coming back and all that. And yes, because I've felt that. I have felt that like some people, yeah, you just easily dismiss them. It's like no big deal. But then there's others that are just like, I just can't let that go. What is it? What is it about, this friendship or whatever that I just cannot like just drop it?
Yep. Yeah. There's again, that's what you're talking about. You feel compelled. You feel really
Hmm.
drawn to this person.
Yep.
And again, if they didn't withhold their end of the bargain, but you did, you have no more reason to engage with them other
Hmm.
than you're helping them.
Yes.
Next question is, if you fulfill your soul contract, is at the end of your current life cycle? Is it all over, or are you free to live out the rest of your days free as you wish? So you have you can have hundreds or thousands of soul contracts. So you never fulfill them totally. It's my
Mm.
understanding that your soul blueprint which is what houses your soul contracts. Once you've reached the end of your soul blueprint, that's when you pass over.
Hmm.
But are you free to live out the rest of your days? Yes, you have free will. You can sever all your contracts and go live in the woods. Be done with them
Right.
all.
Some people do that.
Yep.
So that does happen.
Are all souls obligated to have a soul contract, or are we as souls given free will to enter into a contract or not? Yeah, what do you think?
I think there are. I think that's what some star seeds do in a way. No, not really. No, no. I think you always have something because even I don't think you always have karma to balance. Is what
Nope,
I want to clarify,
you don't.
right? Because there are some star seeds that come in incarnate on Earth and they don't come in with any karma, but
Yep.
they still come in with a soul contract because
Mm-hmm.
they still have an assignment basically to complete.
Mm-hmm. Yes, souls that come in with no karma. I just had somebody
Mm.
yesterday who had zero karma and
Uh huh.
zero karmic lessons. They had no karmic debt and no karmic
Mm.
lessons.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that they can just do whatever they fucking
Willy
want and all
nilly.
that
Yeah.
stuff, right? But it means that they then take need to take all of the knowledge that they have learned from past lifetimes and put it into place in this lifetime.
Yeah. Hmm.
So, um, yeah, the question is, you're not obligated, but you're also not given a choice. You will have a soul contract because
Yeah.
that's what your soul blueprint is made up of.
Yeah.
And you
And
have
also remember that Earth is that's like that's why Earth is so hard. That's why Earth is
right,
so difficult is because it's a school like you are here to learn things. If you weren't, then you would incarnate on some other planet where like you would just be some like energy orb just chilling.
right, right. Here I am, this energy,
I'm
loving life.
floating.
Right,
Yep.
don't have to poop. Don't have to.
Nothing.
Mm-mm,
Yeah. Don't have to pluck my hairs.
mm-mm, mm-mm. Earth. Is a soul contract the only thing that allows us to return or reincarnate? Without one, would we only get one life? No. Um, we have we are multi-dimensional beings, and the soul contract is simply a way to specialize our experience on Earth.
Yeah. 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 And definitely the thing about like uh without a soul contract would you only get one life? Like no, I think there's so many different types of lives that you could have. Like one is to have a life on earth, but there's so many different ways even to experience that. Like you could experience it as a dog, as a plant, there's so many ways. Anyway.
There's so many ways. And the can you enter multiple soul contracts over various lifetimes, or must you fulfill one soul contract before moving on to the next?
Oh no, I think you do simultaneous shit all the time. Like you,
All
because
the time.
you've got you've got contract with each one of your family members, then
Yep.
you've got your friends, your romantic partners. Yeah, so no, you're simultaneously living these things. Yeah, for
And don't
sure.
even get us started on multidimensional existence either, because you could have millions of contracts going on at the same time if you believe in that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Once you remove the
Yeah.
construct of time, you are, yeah, for sure.
Doing what you want, when you want.
Hmm.
How do we know what relationships are soul contracts? We talked about that in the podcast, right?
Yeah.
How
Yes.
do you recognize people that are your soul contracts? They're members of your soul family, but then you also will recognize people from past lives. If it's
Yeah.
somebody who's in your life from a past life and you are experiencing something with them, you have a soul contract.
Yeah. I think there's probably more of a difference between like a short-term contract and a
Mm-hmm.
long-term contract.
100%. Some and there is, it's out there if you guys want to take to the Google. There is a difference between the different types of contracts, but honestly,
Mm.
they got a little convoluted. It was like, so you're basically saying the same thing that you just said. A soul contract is an agreement between two people, but it is interesting to find out what other people have to say about them.
Uh, yeah.
Okay.
I saved this and I'm gonna see if we can share it on the TikTok or somewhere. Um, and it's really beautiful. It's somebody drew all the different ways that relationships show up in our lives, and it's essentially like lines interacting with each other. So like this is best friends in college.
Oh,
That's
I
your
love
dog.
that. Oh, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. So
Therapist
there's
that cracks me up.
yeah, a therapist, right? Because they're like there
Mhm.
for kind of a short term. Sometimes you need them more than others. A sibling, you live like in tandem. Um,
A one night
one night
stand.
stands is like an ex, right? Because you cross for
Mhm.
one night. A parent, like they're there in the beginning and then they're not at the end. Like it's
Oh my
sad,
god,
but
that's really beautiful.
it's really beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, that's all soul contracts as well, right? Like
Yep.
the amount of time that they spend in your life.
Yes, and that actually, I like that that graphic because it perfectly illustrates what they showed me in the Akashic records. That there's two lines, two
Yes.
people are traveling along the same line, and
Uh-huh.
they go through periods of divergence and convergence, divergence and convergence. So it's like this
Yes.
beautiful sort of falling away and coming together, and falling away and coming together. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's exactly how relationships are and how they grow and all that good
Mhm.
stuff.
Yeah.
Um, one of our favorite people, and they didn't tell me that I could say their name specifically, so I won't, but one of our favorite people online asked, do we get to boot them out the next round if we've had enough this time? And again, yes, you have free will. You
Yeah.
can say, no, I'm not going to have a soul contract with you. But remember, in your higher consciousness, the soul is all about unconditional love. And so you might be like, all right, well, listen, I'll help you out again. But typically, all of the research and everything that's come out of the Akashic Records, when one person no longer has the need for one specific lesson, they typically move on. There's no hard
Mm.
feelings. There's plenty of people that person can learn that lesson with. Um,
Yeah.
and so they typically move on because there's so much for them to learn. They don't have time to keep fucking going back over shit.
Sure, sure.
Are there obvious signs to look out for that you've had a soul contract with someone? We talked about that actually. We listed a bunch of signs to look for. And the last question is it possible to clean up some of the complications or messiness that we've experienced while we are incarnated? Or we kind of, do we have to sort of plow through these complicated relationships and then just review after and then gain the clarity? Is it possible to clean up some of the complications? That's the whole point of being in relationship. It's not about cleaning it up. It's about resolving. It's about learning. It's about growing. It's about
Yeah.
healing. It's
Yeah.
That's all done while incarnate.
I feel like the thing that keeps coming to mind is untangling.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like a ball of yarn
Yeah,
and so you're here to untangle it.
yeah. And once you cross over, you will gain that clarity. You
Mhm.
will review and you will gain that clarity. But if you don't take advantage of the physical incarnation and the relationship and the contract and all that stuff to actually untangle,
Mhm.
heal, you're going to continue. It's going to cycle through. That's going to be karmic debt that you're going to bring forward. Those are karmic lessons. So again, the answer to this can sort of piggyback on, do we get to boot them out the next round if we've had enough? No, not really. I mean, yeah, I'm sorry, I just contradicted myself. Yes, you can because of free will, but from a higher perspective, if you haven't learned your lesson, then you probably won't.
Yeah. Well, then remember too the idea that when you haven't learned your lesson with that one person, you
Right.
can let that person go,
You
but then
can.
you're probably just going to end up in another
Ex-
relationship with a different person learning the same lesson.
exactly. And the higher self is going to be like, why do that? Right. You have all of this predetermined karma and all that stuff. I just don't see the
Mhm.
higher self being like, okay, start all over again if you want.
Which it does happen. I
It
mean,
does.
you talk to clients who are like, "Why do I always, date people that are do XYZ?" And it's like, "Well,
Yes.
what, not to say that it's your fault that that person acts that way, but also like what are you doing to heal that so that you don't attract that
Continue
person
to
or so that you're
attract
not
that.
attracting, yeah. Mhm.
But then, so there comes the bigger question. But will then they experience the person that they left behind in the next lifetime? I don't know because I'm not in the next lifetime. But what does come through is that probably more than likely because um,
I think then you make a choice. I think you have a choice at that point, like at the end of this life, then you decide, okay, are you and I done, or do we want to like
right,
give it another round in a different way or whatever? And I think that at that point you can decide like, no, I'm good.
right. That's when all the gray area comes in because honestly, we have nobody to, I can
No,
go into the Akashic records, we can ask
sure.
our spirit guides, guardians, angels, blah, blah, blah. But honestly, do we have somebody that we can get verified proof of that all of this is correct? No, this is all
Not yet.
coming from, the
Yeah.
collective consciousness and everything. But I like to
Yeah.
think that we have free will. We have the ability to say, I'm not going to do this again with you.
Hmm.
Um, but I also think that the higher self is like, all right, again, the higher self is going to be like, well, yes, we are. We're going to do this again because we're going to do this until we get it right because it's all about
Yes.
love.
Yes.
So who knows?
Great.
Who knows with that last question?
Hmm.
Um, yeah. So that's everything that I know about the logistics of soul contracts.
Well, that was wonderful. I think that was really good information.
Well, thank you. It was a fun one to sort of dig into and write up. I didn't have to do research on this one. I had everything in my already in my files, for
Mm.
years and years of just saving documents and articles and stuff, and then putting it all together. That was kind of fun. It was like a report, a book report.
Yes. Well, friends, that means it's time to say goodbye. You can find us on all the socials under Esoterics Podcast and catch us on Facebook, hanging out in the Esoterics Podcast community under Facebook groups. That's where everyone added their questions today. So if you want to get involved in the conversation, make sure you're joined. This is a safe place to ask questions on all things spiritual and everyday happenings, as well as start a conversation, post a fun meme, and engage in your spiritual practices.
Yes, I love that. And I think that it would be fun too to start posting pre questions like this
Yeah.
on the regular based on, because based on the topics. So let's
Hmm.
do that. So thank you so much for hanging out with us today. You beautiful people, stay mystical, magical, and don't ever let anyone tell you what to do.
Cool.
Bye.
Bye.